Good afternoon. Thank you for attending today's webinar, How Distributors Can Use CRM to Set, Track, and Manage Sales. So a little about Forvis Mazar. Forvis Mazar is an independent member of Forvis Mazar Global, a leading global professional services network. Ranked among the largest public accounting firms in the United States, our team members are dedicated to providing an unmatched client experience through the delivery of assurance, tax, and consulting services. As part of the firm's consulting services, Business Technology Services provides analysis, design, implementation, upgrade, training, and support services for accounting and ERP systems and sales and marketing CRM systems, in addition to other digital transformation and advanced technology services. At a glance, these are the technologies Business Technology Services supports. Today, we'll be focusing on Microsoft Dynamics 365 Sales CRM. Our presenter today is Steve Rybrook. Steve is a managing consultant with the Microsoft practice at Forvis Mazar. His primary focus is on managing our oil and gas CRM product powered by Microsoft Dynamics 365 Sales. Steve helps lead our implementation teams, providing support and managing projects related to Dynamics 365 and Salesforce solutions. Steve has been involved in CRM since 2010 and supports CRM projects from kickoff to training and go live for clients in a diverse array of industry. He also brings nearly 40 years of IT experience in addition to a CRM and project management experience. Steve is a Microsoft certified technology specialist in Microsoft Dynamics CRM applications and is admin, Sales Cloud, and Service Cloud certified with Salesforce. He also is American Management Associate certified. So again, thank you for participating in today's webinar. Now I will turn over the presentation to Steve.
Okay, thank you, Sarah. So today we are going to focus on distributors using CRM. So let's get into some of the objectives, and we're going to hit these and many more. But from a distributor perspective, it's important to set goals and to be able to track those goals. We're going to show you how to set and track goals for volume and gross profit, and then compare those to your actuals to see how you're doing. Another big important part of CRM is to be able to get all the information about a particular customer at your fingertips, all in one easy to use spot. And then another feature we're going to focus on are key performance indicators. Again, those are some of the objectives. We are going to cover lots more than that. So let's continue on, and we will start with our first polling question. So if you're not in sales and this doesn't affect you, you can put on your sales hat if you want, or just guess. There's no right or wrong answer, but do you have a 360-degree view of your customers' information and easy access to their order history? Yes, no, or I don't know.
Well, I know our answer, Steve.
Yeah, I know my answer, yeah.
Living by that mantra, if it's not in CRM, it doesn't exist.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, I wanted to just let everybody know when I put this webinar together, I had to pick a specific industry to kind of put some data in there. So you're going to see a lot of data related to the oil and gas distribution industry, but this could apply to any industry that does distribution. So widgets, right? If you distribute tires, exhaust, and batteries, just any distribution. But again, just to try to keep it consistent, you're going to see a lot of data related to fuel and lubricants. And then it is focused more on sales, what a salesperson or a sales manager might need to do. So even if you're not in that area, you probably know someone who is, and maybe you're involved with them slightly, and you could maybe share with them some ideas, some concepts that you learned today.
Love it. Yes, and our results are in. It's almost an even split, but we're leading with no, it is not. So great webinar to be on today.
Yeah, hopefully this will help. All right, let's move on to the next slide here. Just a little bit of background about CRM. For those of you who don't know, there's three main areas within CRM: sales, marketing, and service. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on marketing and service. We're focusing over here on the sales side. We're going to touch on leads, accounts, contacts, opportunities, those types of things. Why might you consider CRM if you don't have one? So I'm not going to read all 10 of these to you. A couple of them that jump out at me is no centralized or easy access to data. I deal with so many sales folks who are trying to do their job and just don't have the information they need to do it. So they have to call people. They have to ask for stuff. People have to push stuff to them. It's just so inefficient. It's so nice when we get them up and running on CRM. I think another one that jumps out at me, kind of related, is number 7 here: reporting and data analytics. Right? Look, I want to analyze what's going on with my customers, and I just want some tools to do that. And another one that jumps out at me maybe is number 9, replication of data. I kind of grew up in the IT world, so data integrity is just very, very important to me. So I don't want the ERP system to say one thing and CRM to say something else. So let's make sure those systems are tied together, and I can only change things at the source. So if something is the source of information is the ERP system, let's make sure we change it there and push that data over into CRM where it's locked down, where you can't change it, but you have access to it. So these are some reasons why you might consider a CRM. Some of the benefits, again, not going to read all of these to you, but the one I love the most is just efficiency and productivity. Everybody has so much to do, and they want to be productive. So we got to give them the tools to do that. So I love efficiency. And then over there on the right, on some of the business goals, the one that I see the most probably is scalability. There just gets to be a point when you outgrow spreadsheets. They just don't scale well. Well, with CRM, you can scale very easily. The system can just continue to grow as you grow, and you don't have to reinvent the wheel, every time. All right. One of the things that I asked some of our clients recently is, what do they like about our CRM for distributors? And this was, the feedback. I kind of prioritized it. So a lot of them just love the reports, getting access to all the data, right at their fingertips. Activity tracking, which is kind of a cool feature in CRM, keeping track of your sales calls, your phone calls, your tasks, the things that you've done, and then even setting reminders for the things that you need to do in the future. So activity tracking is just a great help for folks who are busy and have just a lot of things going on. Then a few folks mentioned the mobile app, and then charts and dashboards, and I'm sure there was a lot of single or double answers, but that's what a lot of people like about the system that I'll be showing you today. So what I wanted to do is just cover kind of verbally the features, and then I want to spend most of the time actually showing you. So I'm going to show you obviously how you navigate through the system. You'll be seeing that through the demo. But from a data integration perspective, there's all kinds of good information in your ERP system. Your customers, your products, your invoice data, your order history. You might have product balance information or special pricing for customers. So we want to get all of that in CRM in a very easy to access system for the sales team, sales managers, maybe customer service, operations. If they don't have access to this data, let's get it for them in CRM. So that's like a kind of a one-time setup, a little bit of work up front, and then you're all set moving forward because those systems will stay in sync. And then what we want to do is we want to bring that data to life, right, with charts and dashboards and reports and analysis tools. And if you see something on a chart, I want you to be able to drill into that to get the answer that the chart probably posed the question to you, like what's behind this chart? And you can just drill into it and get all the answers that you need. Some other things that we're going to talk about are leads. I'm going to spend a little bit of time on that. Accounts, contacts, and opportunities. There's a couple of customizations that we put in the system to keep track of, if maybe you lost a customer, how often do they order? Have they gone beyond that? Hey, I should be notified of that. Suggestive sell in the distribution industry, we find it quite common where if I have a customer that buys X, they usually buy Y. So wouldn't it be great to find out if the customer buying X is buying Y? And if he's not, why isn't he? We'll talk about some competitor information and how that can be of value. Spend a little bit of time on opportunities, and I'm not going to really have time for quotes, but obviously you can do quoting right out of the system. A lot of times with distributors, quotes are in many cases a glorified price list, because you want a client to buy from you forever, and these are your products that I think you'd be interested in. This is the price today. Obviously, over time, the price might fluctuate, but let's do business together. Then the last slide here, some of the more in-depth features. Talk about that GP or volume goal setting. So we want to be able to set goals. What gets measured gets done. That's optional. If you do that, then we can compare goals to actual, which is pretty easy, right? We have your actuals because we're integrated with your ERP. If you set goals, we can tell you how you're doing compared to your goals. And then what's even more interesting, if your team is really good at managing their opportunities, their pipeline, and you set goals, now we have a tool where you can say, hey, I want the system to tell me basically every day, how many opportunities do I have to add to my pipeline to hit our goal? So that's a great tool to use kind of from maybe month 2 or 3 in the year until maybe, month 10 or 11 in the year. You don't, too early in the year, it's not going to tell you much. And at the end of the year, it's maybe too late. But during the meat of the year, you can really use that tool to help you focus on, what you need to do. Activities and notes, I touched on that a little bit earlier. Tracking all the different communications you've had with a client is great. We have a feature for equipment tracking. A lot of folks in the distribution industry will either loan out or possibly rent out equipment. I think in the oil and gas industry, I see a lot of tanks. So, hey, customer, I'm going to give you a tank, but you have to promise to buy a product from me to put in that tank, and hopefully you buy a lot, and that helps pay for that tank. In other industries, right, you can use that feature for anything, right? It could be trucks, it could be generators, it could be pipe benders, it could be any piece of equipment, right? If you want to track it, and I'm going to spend a little bit of time showing you that. A very specific one for the fuel industry is you want to get your prices and your name out in front of your clients. So hit a button once a day and blast your prices out to all your clients and prospects. It's a kind of a nice feature. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that. Territory management, kind of a neat mapping tool that might help somebody new that you hire, especially if you hire somebody from out of the region that maybe doesn't know the geography. That's kind of a cool feature. Not going to spend much time on mobile, but just about everything I show you today, you can do on a mobile device, which sales folks are out on the road, right? So they pull up in the parking lot to visit a client. They can pull up CRM and find out all about this client, refresh their memory basically before they walk in. And maybe when they walk out, they can do some quick updates. And then we'll also spend some time on KPIs. All right, we have another polling question. How much time do you spend each week on activity and opportunity pipeline reports? And I kind of wish that said reporting, not reports, now that I'm reading it. So what the goal is, for me anyway, is to have the sales team out doing what they do as much as they can, and have CRM be a tool to help them do that better, not a tool that they have to spend all day in, right? To update an opportunity might only take a minute or two, right? Really, the goal is to have the data in CRM kind of match what's happening out in the real world from a sales perspective. So really managing your opportunities. How big of an opportunity is this? When do I expect to close this deal? Where am I at in the sales process? So, if you can do that, and then manage your activities, the things that you're doing and the things that you need to do down the road, it can just really become a very efficient system to use to help you spend more time out selling and managing existing accounts.
Yes,
and wow,
yeah.
I see the results. About 50, looks like 51% or so spend less than an hour. So there's kind of a judgment here on, is that good or bad, right? Do you do everything you need to do and you can do it in less than an hour? That's great. If you spend a couple hours doing it, but you're finding more value with doing that, that's good as well. So good stuff. Thanks for answering that. All right, we are about to flip over to CRM. I'm checking the clock. I'm about 2 minutes behind, so I am going to have to pick up the pace here a little bit. So let me bring over, well, you're all seeing my little sandbox. This is just a demo world. I've got some, I'll say, okay data in here. It's not the greatest, but I try to keep it fairly updated. So one of the things that I want to just kind of point out is the navigation. So you're going to see me over here on this left-hand side quite a bit, clicking on stuff. And over on the bottom and the left, it kind of lets you select the main area. So right now I'm in what's called the workplace area, where I can look at dashboards and activities and videos. But if I go down here and I go to the sales area, which we'll spend a lot of time here, here's where I'm managing my opportunities, which is my pipeline, my accounts, my contacts, my leads, and on and on. So that's just, you'll see me doing that, and you'll see some buttons up here on top, and like kind of the guts of what I'm doing is kind of right there in the middle. That's the way this whole thing is kind of designed. So we'll spend a little bit of time just talking about leads, so everybody knows that there's a feature for leads. It's pretty straightforward. If you think about sales, right? Sales is trying to generate leads. Hopefully, the marketing department helps with that. But I'm a salesperson, and maybe I get a call from my brother, and he said, "Hey, did you stop at such and such? I think they might want to buy the products that you sell." Or you do a trade show and you just gather leads. And I'll just open one up real quick. I'm going to double click on here to open up this record. Not super detailed here. We're basically saying, I think Henry's Construction, dealing with old Henry here, who's the owner. Right now I put them in the system as a lead, and I really have one objective here. I want to find out if that's a good lead or a bad lead. So maybe Henry's Construction is just about to go out of business, or their credit is terrible, or they don't even buy the products we sell. Right? In that case, I would just disqualify this lead. But hopefully I find out that, hey, this is a good lead. They're interested in learning more about us. I can go in here and just click here and qualify this lead. I'm not going to do that right now, but you basically, when you qualify the lead, it takes all of this information and it kind of splits it up for you now, and it's going to create an account record for Henry's Construction. It's going to create a contact record for Henry Hickleby, and it's also going to create an opportunity for the business I want to go after for Henry's Construction. So it's a very good relational database. They're all related, they're all connected, but it's now separate, and there's advantages to that, because over time you might have more contacts that you talk to for this account, and you might lose an opportunity, but then later have to create another opportunity, but the account always stays. So speaking of the account, let's go over to accounts. And there's a couple different ways for me to find an account. I could go over here and search, or there's a global search that I was playing with earlier that kind of searches the whole system. So I'm going to click here. I'm just going to cheat and use the one I searched for a little while ago, because I'm looking for Fairview Manufacturing. So I just put in a few letters, and you can see it found accounts, contacts, opportunities. It's looking everywhere for me to help me find what I want. And I just happen to be looking for this account called Fairview Manufacturing. So just a little background on the screen you're looking at now. There's a lot of different tabs to give me, more of that 360 view, everything I want to know about this particular account. And this particular account, I see that it has a customer number filled in, an account number, and it's also coded as a customer. So you'll notice that in CRM, your sales team might have accounts in here that are prospects, right? They haven't even turned them into a customer yet, and they would not have an account number. And then most of these locks won't be there. But if, for instance, the name of this company is really Fairview Manufacturing, Inc., and I want to get that fixed, you don't do that for customers that are tied to your ERP system. We want to fix that in the ERP system and then have it feed into CRM. Because a lot of these things that are locked, the Bible, the source, is somewhere else. So again, one version of the truth. So I just want to give you a Just difference on that. If this were a prospect, you wouldn't see very many locks at all. You can pretty much do whatever you want. All right, so what might I see on an account? Well, I'm just going to go to this first tab. And here's a look at order history. As this is loading, think of this as all of the invoice data for this customer, for this account. So it looks like I loaded some data, a couple weeks ago. So it looks like the last time they bought something was in September 21st. And here's the product they bought, how much they paid, how many they bought, what our gross profit was, how much did we make per unit. And as I scroll, you just kind of go backwards in time. So we have clients that keep years and years and years of order history. This is about as detailed of data as you can get. And now we can kind of bring that to life for you. I'll show you in a couple other places. I'm just going to jump through a few other tabs here. There's an amount tab. Basically, whatever numbers you feel are relevant for, let's say, somebody using CRM to get at that might reside in your ERP, you can bring over to CRM. So now look, I have great access to, it looks like AR, this is some aging information, payment information. So this is all locked, can't change it. This is fed right from the ERP. If I jump over to one of my favorite screens, here's where I can maintain all the people or the contacts that I deal with at Fairview Manufacturing. It's really easy to add a new contact, get somebody in there with their name, their email address, their phone number, and this list can grow. So you can have many contacts working for a company that you deal with. And then over here on the right, I kind of bring that order history to life. So we're looking at 12 months, summarizing it by product, showing the product that this particular client bought the most of down to the product that they bought the least of. So this just kind of gives, if these are your products, you probably are going to understand this screen very well. So it kind of gives you an idea of how big the customer is, what they're buying from you. If you want to get a little bit more crazy, there's a 4-year summary by what we call department, and then over the last 4 years, broken down by month, looking at volume and gross profit. In this particular example, you see this account is set up to buy fuel from us, and then they also buy lubricants. So I'm analyzing all of this data right here at my fingertips. All right, picking it up a notch. I'm kind of a numbers guy, so I'm showing you all the numbers, but some folks are a little bit more graphical, visual. So we can pull that order history into some charts if you want. So in this case, you can look at gross profit, sales or revenue, units, volume. So I'll just flip over to volume. So how am I doing so far fiscal year to date compared to the same time period last year? And early in your fiscal year, this isn't going to tell you very much, but this second chart always looks at 24 months. So how are we doing the most recent 12 months versus the prior 12 months? And then we break both of these charts down by what we call product segment. So how you group your products. This would be how we would configure the CRM for you. In this particular case, like an example here is like industrial oil. So it looks like they're buying a lot more industrial oil the most recent 12 months versus the prior 12 months. So that's that. All right, I really have to pick up the pace. Wow, there's so much to show. Okay, another feature just to kind of help the system keep an eye on your accounts for you. If you're managing lots of accounts, it's hard to keep track of, but once you get to know Fairview Manufacturing and how often they typically order from you, maybe I do a little research and I find out that, hey, they order about every 2 to 3 weeks. If they ever went over, let's say 24 days and haven't placed an order, I would want to know about that. So you don't have to fill this in, but if you do, we're going to keep an eye on it for you. And then we have a dashboard you can always click to, and you can, oops, I'm going to go to my pinned. I like this dashboard. I pinned it here. So I can go to this dashboard at any time, probably once or twice a week, and look, are any of my accounts past their estimated days between orders? And here, Fairview Manufacturing, looks like they last ordered on September 21st. You're supposed to order with, if it's over 24 days, I want to know about it, and they're 3 days over that. So maybe I want to give them a call and see what's going on. So that's just an example of, the system doing a lot of work for you. Your work was actually just entering that number here if you wanted the system to do it. The other thing we touched on earlier was suggestive sell. So the whole concept here is customer buys X, they usually buy Y. So you set up a little matrix. And what did the system just do? It looked at everything they're buying. It knows what they're not buying. It looks at the matrix and it says, based on the data, there's a chance you have a chance of selling antifreeze or your automotive line to Fairview Manufacturing. So have at her. All right, that's suggestive sell. And we talked a little bit about competitors. What's kind of cool about that is a way to enter competitor information, which you really want your team to do for your prospects and your customers. Because anytime I want, then I can go look at what we've entered in the past, and I can easily see that Fairview Manufacturing is buying their antifreeze from ABC Oil, they're buying their DEF from Benzoil, and they're buying their grease from Halloway. So this is cool just on a day-to-day basis. But where this really can help is, let's say ABC Oil Company just got acquired. ABC Oil Company just went out of business. ABC Oil Company just lost their sales team, whatever. Now you've got this data scattered all throughout the system for all your accounts, and you can easily pull out all of the competitor records that you've created for ABC Oil Company, and now you've got some pretty promising opportunities that maybe you want to go after. So just great information, again, to keep track of, and then use it when you're working with the client, and then use it if a competitor maybe goes out of business or shuts the doors, what have you. All right, so enough about accounts for now. We're going to jump to opportunities for a minute. I just wanted to show you opportunities. Really, this is like the business that I'm working on. So I'm trying to get business from all of these particular accounts. Some of them might be existing customers, some of them might be brand new. I'll just open one opportunity here just to kind of show you. So there is a sales process. You're just kind of keeping track of where you are in the process. You're early on. Maybe you're finding out what the customer's needs are. Maybe you're putting together a presentation. Hopefully they like it. They say, let's do business. You're doing like credit app, whatnot. And hopefully you can close this as a win. At any point, if things go bad, right, you can close this opportunity as lost. And again, you're keeping track of some high-level information here. I'm not going to get into everything. But some of the important things is, how big of an opportunity is this? Any comments or text fields that I want to put in just to kind of refresh my memory or communicate to the boss? When do I think I'm going to close this deal? What stage am I in right now? Again, I don't want you to have to spend a ton of time updating this, just what's going on out there in the real world. What opportunities are you working on? So those are opportunities. That's like a big part of CRM. Another thing I think I touched on earlier was keeping track of how much you have on hand of stuff. So maybe you get a call from a client and he wants to order something, and rather than call somebody, maybe he wants some of this grease. So you can pull up that particular item, find out a little bit about it. Okay, we stock that in these 4 warehouses. Here's how much we have on hand. There's some other numbers here. How much is considered available. So, if he needs something out of Green Bay, we're probably in good shape. If he needs it out of Chicago, maybe we've got to do a transfer or find out when we're going to be getting something in. So again, get the information right there so somebody doesn't have to make a phone call. All right, we are going to take it up a big notch here and look at some dashboards. And I'm going to start with kind of from a corporate perspective. So think about your overall company and how are we doing? I can look at gross profit or volume. So what is this blue bar? This blue bar you kind of get for free. That's because that's all we're doing is adding up all your order history. How much gross profit has come in so far this year? Now, if once a year you decide to set goals, you get those little circles. So those, you have to spend a little bit of time once a year to set goals. And then what we've done is we've broken them down by quarter. So the concept is, if you're about halfway into the year, you should be about by the second circle, third quarter, fourth quarter, and we're not even quite done with the year and we're just crushing it, right? Test data, huh? All right, so we're doing great. So if I wanted to, I can just click on this blue bar and it breaks it down by, let's see here. Let me go back one. I think I double clicked. Yeah, we break it down by department. So these would be your departments, right? What are your like business lines, or you might call them divisions, right? How do you really analyze data for your company? So I think I told you I was going to spend a lot of time like on fuel and lubricants. So if I click on like, how's my lubricant division or department doing? Then it breaks it down by what we call product category, right? How do you group your products? And you can group them a number of different ways. Looks like we've got something to keep track of our private label that we sell. Well, how are we doing there? And then if I break that down a little bit further, we break that down by product segment. Again, goal versus actual if you set goals here. And then if I go one step further, it's going to show me the salespeople who are helping the company hit that goal. And it looks like Steve is the only one selling our private label antifreeze. So that is the way you might look at it from a corporate perspective. If you're a sales manager, you might want to spin this data a little bit differently. And again, these charts, they're all alive. It's all done. You just got to get the data in here and bring them to life. But as a sales manager, I might want to look at the data at a high level, starting out with my sales team. So how's my sales team doing, goal versus actual? And I can select, particular salespeople if I want, but by default, it's going to show me everybody. And then I can do that same drill down. So here's Steve. How's Steve doing by department, and then by product category, product segment, and I can just keep drilling. Now, all of this, it's great to see this visual, but there's also reports you can run to get numbers, right? I just want to see, goal, actual, difference, variance percentage, those types of things. So all of this, there's reports that do this as well. I just thought I would show you the dashboards. All right. So now we covered your pipeline, which are your opportunities. So your team is, let's hope they're managing their pipeline well. We're looking at your goals. You set goals for volume and or gross profit, and we're analyzing that. But then the last piece I talked about is if you're doing all that, you can take advantage of this gap to goal feature. Now, I'm not going to be able to get into the nitty gritty on this, but the cool part is that all you need to do is tell the system what you want it to do. And I just have 3 examples here. What I want the system to do is every night, I want it to look at my lubricants department and just tell me, what do I need to do? What does our team need to do to hit our goal? But I also wanted to scrunch all of Steve's information. What does Steve need to do to hit his goal? And then even further level, what does Steve need to do to hit his lubricant goal? So every night we're going to scrunch numbers like crazy. And anytime you want, you could just go in and pull up the results. Now this happens to be, I found a record from a while ago that actually had some numbers that made a little bit of sense, but I'm not even going to be able to read them to you anyway. But every night you would get basically 3 results. And anytime you wanted to look at it, I can just open this up. And what we decided to do is show you every single number we use to do this calculation. So we start with, how are you doing so far, volume so far this year, and what's your average per day, so we can kind of estimate what your current business is going to do. Then we look at how much time is left in the year, what your average win rate is, what your average deal size, what your goal is. And we just do all of this math. And by the time we get done, we have this number. And what this is telling me is when I get our lubricants team together, I'm going to say, if we want to hit our goal, the data tells us we need to get 149 more opportunities. So if you're not out there trying to get, more business out of your existing customers, right? Maybe they're buying something from you and you're going to try to sell them something else in addition, right? That's an opportunity to grow the share of wallet of an existing customer, or starting out with a lead and getting brand new customers. So working those opportunities through the system, but we've got to get some more opportunities in the system or we're just not going to hit our goal. And again, this is that feature that I think if this were run the first month of the year, it's probably going to tell you just have a lot of work to do, right? And you all know that. And month 11, month 12, it might be a little bit too late. So really month 2 to maybe 10, this can just be a great coaching tool and just, driving behavior. Like, here's what the data says. We can't sit and think things are good. We've got some work to do yet. All right, so that's gap to goal. Doing a little time check here. I'm doing pretty good. I'm going to move over to KPIs. We kind of use the same concept there. You pick what you feel is important to you. We have dozens of KPIs, and you can set those at the company level, at the department level, at the salesperson level, you know, any combination of these. So I guess I'll just focus on this first one. So here's an example of a KPI I set for our lubricants department. I want the lubricants department to grow the gross profit over last year by 10%. And if we do that, right, if we're on pace for that, you know, we're green. If we're below 5%, you know, I want the KPI to show up red. And if we're anywhere in the middle of that, you know, that would be yellow. So these are just some made up numbers. And I did that for a number of KPIs. You know, you can do KPIs for activities, for leads, for opportunities. You know, there's just dozens of KPIs. And then again, every night we scrunch the data, and anytime I want to look, I can just say, you know, what are my KPIs? And it looks like, you know, this is what got scrunched last night. You know, I've got some KPIs that are green. Looks like that's that first one. So let's talk about that. So here's the results of last night. Remember, we were at, you know, if we're over 10, we're doing good. Well, our GP went up 40% over last year. You know, maybe we have an explanation for that, right? We did an acquisition, so we just got some easy, you know, growth in our gross profit. And you could always change your KPI if you want at that point. But right now, it just says we're crushing it. Let's pick another one here. You know, let's just do the second one here. So we think activities are important. So what I did is I set an activity goal for Steve. And based on where we are in the calendar, as of right now, he should be on the pace of about 41 completed activities. And if he's below 31, right, that would be red. And so far this year, I've only completed 6 activities. So red. And you can use this data on charts if you want to, but you know, right here, it just kind of comes to life, right? You just see the color and you know what to focus on. So again, what's important to you? Let the system do all the work. All right. I'm going to pull us back to a few other dashboards. And I think I mentioned how to, you know, interact with the data. So I'm just going to show you a couple of charts. There's lots of them. And again, all these charts are done. You just start putting in the data and they just come to life. So let's just start with this one right here. So here's a dashboard with some charts on it that's really just analyzing our pipeline, our open opportunities. So how many open opportunities do we have by the month they were created? Well, why would this be important? Well, if I have some opportunities that are years old, like I do, right, you know, should we just close these as lost? I mean, really? I've been hanging out there a long time. That would be like a good discussion to have. How many open opportunities does each department have? And then how many open opportunities does each person have? My sales team. So if you know if your business, maybe kind of the sweet spot is a salesperson to be productive and efficient, if they have maybe between 10 and 15 opportunities, well, Steve's maybe juggling too many, and a lot of other folks maybe just don't have enough, right? We need to get some more opportunities in the pipeline. So really good data. If you want to analyze the data, let's say by volume. So how much volume is in our pipeline? So how many, in this case, units, this is probably gallons, right? Units for, you know, the lubricants world and the fuel world. How many gallons or units do I have by department, by person? And then this is what most people think of when they think of like the sales funnel. Like how many gallons or units are in the pipeline by sales stage? So early on in the sales process, and we're just about done with the sales process. So hopefully a lot of these gallons turn into real sales, right? But I mentioned that you can interact with this data. So this chart here might drive a question for you. Like, well, what is in this? What makes this up? So you can just hit this magic button and it puts your data, the data, next to the chart. So that's all this chart is a representation of these opportunities. And right now, it looks like we have about 40 opportunities in the system. And my question was, what makes up this 121,000? So if I click on it, it just narrows down this list to the opportunities that are in that sales stage, at the very end of the sales process. Now, this is still a pretty long list, but it might be okay. I might be able to just kind of review this and get my answer. But maybe it's too big. I can actually make a different chart than of this data very easily. And one of the things that's very common is like salesperson, which in CRM, that would be like the owner of the opportunity. What I can do is I can say, take that data and show it to me graphically by owner, let's say on a bar chart. So like 2 or 3 clicks away, I can see who on my sales team has that volume in the pipeline that's just ready to close the deals. And again, my test data, so you see I've got a lot of them, but other folks have some of these opportunities and some volume like in the pipeline. All right, so I'm just gonna go back and show you just one other way to interact with the data. I'm gonna hit the same button, but let's say that you really like this chart and you're not so much interested in what's over here where you can click this. You're interested in maybe what this chart would look like for the lubricants department. Well, remember what I said, that this chart is just a representation of this data. So if I change this data by putting a little filter on here, I'm just going to filter on department and say, I just want lubricants. It narrows down this list. Oops, sorry. Sorry, I think I clicked to open the opportunity. Sorry about that. So yeah, if I click here, and I did narrow it down to lubricants. I think I did a double click. And now this chart is a representation of all of our lubricants opportunities. So anyway, just a cool way to interact with the data. If questions pop up, you're not just stuck with looking at a pretty picture. You can drill into it if you want. All right. One other dashboard that I think is kind of popular, I'm just going to kind of go back to the dashboards, is a way to kind of maybe use as a coaching tool for your sales team. And it's just a really good way to look back and look forward. And because of my test data, I'm actually going to go in here and just go back a bunch of years so I get a lot of stuff. So I'm looking back many years. Hopefully you don't have to do this for your organization. But maybe I'm going to be meeting with Steve. And what I want to do is analyze the last quarter, the last month. And then I also, again, want to look forward. So what are how many opportunities did Steve win? And what were they? How many did he lose? And what were they? And then how many did he create? And then looking forward, how many opportunities does Steve still have open in the pipeline that he's working? So looking back, looking forward, and then open leads is also another way to look forward. Like, what leads do I need to qualify? And then if you're an activity-driven organization, right, how many activities have I completed, created, and how many activities do I still have open? And because people can have hundreds, if not thousands of activities, just to save real estate, we didn't show you them, but you can easily just click a button and it will show you those activities if you want to see them. So just a nice tool for an individual or even a sales manager. You're doing a coaching session, you're just kind of talking about how things are going, right? It's all about the data. And as Sarah mentioned early on, right, if somebody starts talking about an opportunity they won and they don't see it on here, hey, if it's not in CRM, did it really exist, right? Let's get it in there. Let's work off of the data. Okay, I mentioned territory management, I think, early on. So it's kind of a mapping tool. And the concept here is, maybe I'm going to be visiting a certain customer or I'm going to be in a certain town. And I'm wondering, where are all my accounts and who's near them? And maybe I could, make my trip more efficient. And again, if you know your customers, you've been around a while, you probably wouldn't use this, but imagine you hire somebody new or somebody's from out of town. This could be so helpful. So I'll just take an easy one. I think I was playing with Green Bay, Wisconsin. So I'm just going to go in here and I'll just type in Green Bay, Wisconsin, and show me all the accounts within 20 miles of Green Bay, Wisconsin. So it's going to go out. All the accounts are geocoded and the leads I'm just going to zoom out to make sure. That looks like Green Bay to me. I'm going to zoom back in and we got some circles and there's a little legend over here. If it's green, that's a customer. If it's red, that's a prospect. If it's black, it's something other than a customer or a prospect. And if it's blue, it's a lead. Well, let's say When I moved in the area, I bought a little cabin on Shawano Lake, and I'm going to be heading into Green Bay. So who is this account right here? If I'm going to be heading in, maybe I want to swing by there. So you can click on the circle. It pulls up a little bit of information about the account, but I can always view that record in a separate window. And now I showed you the account earlier, so here's all the information about that account. I could look at their order history, I could look at their contact information, product summary, all those screens I was showing you earlier. I can look at and make a decision if I want to call them, maybe schedule a time with them. Maybe I was in Green Bay and one of my appointments got canceled and I'm about to head home early and I have time. Well, I could do the same thing on my laptop, on my iPad, on my iPhone, look it up and reach out, stop on my way home. So just a great tool. Again, depending on your situation, I have some folks who just like, I know where my customers are, Steve. Like, okay, I get it, but not everybody's in that boat. All right. I also mentioned I was going to touch on equipment tracking. So I'm going to go into our equipment tracking module, and there's really three pieces here. Number one is your accounts or your customers, and we have that. So we're a third of the way there. The thing that we really don't have in CRM is your equipment, right? What do you want to keep track of? So there's just a little table. You go in and you enter your equipment, and hopefully you have a way of kind of designating that with a unique identifier. So if you can look out in the real world, you'll see a tank with 665-15 on it. That just happens to be an example of one. So now we've got, in this particular case, a tank, but again, it could be a generator, it could be a truck, it could be, think about anything that you might want to track the location of and who has it and are they buying our products to use with that piece of equipment, those types of things. So then the other piece is just tying those two together. So that's the third piece. So I'll just highlight one here. So this is pretty much saying that Fairview Manufacturing has this 200-gallon tank, and we loaned it to them back in February of 2018, and there's no end date here. So the assumption is if we're maintaining this properly, if I go out to Fairview Manufacturing, they have this tank. Now, there's something really cool about doing this. Two things, actually. If I link over to this tank to find out a little bit more about this tank, I can scroll down and get a history of where this tank was and where it currently is. So way back when, we loaned it to this company, then we rented it to this company, then we took it back and it stuck in our warehouse for like 6 years. And finally, we loaned it out to Fairview Manufacturing. So that's kind of nice. You can also have activities and compliance items with your tanks. So if you have to go do, well, in this case, leak detection, it could be preventive maintenance, right? You can schedule that stuff and get reminders, all kinds of cool stuff. The other kind of cool thing is, remember that 360 view of the account we talked about? Well, here I'm back to Fairview Manufacturing. If I go under this related records tab, I can find account equipment that's just related to Fairview Manufacturing. So it looks like, we've done a lot with them from an equipment perspective. It looks like this big old truck, we rented to them, looks like back in 2017. And we loaned them a tank for a little while. And this tank, they still have. And it looks like they needed a hose for some reason, for a couple of years. So we rented them that. So the fact that this is a relational database, they're all tied together and easy, to analyze, right? Piece of equipment, or in this case, looking at the account. So that's equipment tracking, kind of in speed mode. There are a few other things that you can do with it specifically for tanks, but I think we could get creative and do this a number of different ways. But one of the things that we can do, because we have your order history, sometimes you might, in this case, a tank, loan a tank or give a tank to a client, but they promise to put this product in it, and they promise to put in this many gallons every year. And that's the commitment they made, and that's why we ended up, giving them a free, $5,000 tank. Well, now that we have all this information, you can run reports or look at dashboards to show you who's not meeting your commitment. Right? You might find out that they're putting your competitor's product in your tank. So hopefully they're meeting their commitment, but if they're not, we can tell you that, and then you can go have a discussion. All right, I'm still doing okay for time. Last topic is going to be reports. We've been kind of doing this kind of at the individual level, but if you think about all of this data, there might be times when I want to analyze all of my customers. Maybe I want to see who's bringing in the most volume down to who's bringing in the least volume, or let's compare the first 6 months of last year to the first 6 months of this year. Trending reports. There's all kinds of reports in the system. And the way we decided to do that, and this screen actually becomes a little bit intimidating for about 15 minutes. But once you get used to it and trained on it, and you see your data, it kind of makes sense. So the first thing you do is pick the report you want. And the name of the report kind of gives you an idea, but there's documentation that explains all of these. So I'll just pick this first one. And I want to do an account ranking report. So I want to rank my customers best to worst. So if I do that, it's going to ask me, how do I want to rank them? And I could just say, let's say by volume. So who buys the most down to who buys the least. Now I have to pick a time frame, right? So I would put in a range of dates, maybe the last 12 months, maybe last month, maybe, pick whatever time period you care about. And then I can just skip all of this, which seems kind of scary, and go right down to the bottom and say, request a report. And I can continue to work in CRM, and in a minute or two, I'm going to get an email with a spreadsheet with my report. And then I can do whatever I want with it. What we found is a lot of people were running reports and then exporting them to Excel to do stuff. So, hey, let's just send it to them right away in Excel. Now, what are all the rest of these options? Well, you can basically narrow down the data, right? You have to pick a time period, but what else might you want to do? Well, maybe I only want to rank Caleb's accounts, his best account down to his worst account. Maybe I want to rank just our agriculture customers. So you can, basically, you're just checking the boxes. If you check a box, then you're just saying, I want to narrow down the data that the report uses. So these are all the different fields that are attached to the account. So basically, you're narrowing down the accounts it's going to even analyze. And then when you think of your invoice or order history data, what transactions might I want to include or exclude? So in this case, we talked about department. Well, when I run this report, maybe my fuel department totally skews the numbers because we sell so much fuel. I don't want them, and I don't want these other departments. I just want, let's say, lubricants. So now what am I asking for? I'm asking for maybe all of last year, rank all my customers, who's buying the most lubricants down to who's buying the least. And then we talked about earlier about product categories and product segments. Maybe you just want to analyze a certain category or a certain segment, right? Who's our best antifreeze customer? So you pick the data you want the report to use is ultimately what this is. But if these are your configurations, which that's part of the setup of the system, we get this looking and feeling like you talk and you work. And then this screen just comes to life with your selections. You go to request reports. So I have a couple that I ran ahead of time, and I'll just show you a couple real quick because we have just a minute or two. So here is an account ranking report. So I ran one for all of 23 for just lubricants. So what is this showing me? All kinds of information about our customers, but then you'll see it's sorted by volume from highest to lowest. So this is my best lubricant customer, at least was in 2023. And then we have a running subtotal, not used by too many people, but then we also have a percent. What percent of the total does each account contribute? And then we have a running subtotal of percentages, because a lot of times we get asked, Steve, I want a report of my top 80% of our customers. Well, you're going to get the whole list. Just stop reading when you get right here. But these 10 or 12 clients bring in 80% of the lubricants volume, in my little demo world. And all the rest of them make up the last 20%. So again, you pick the data you want, and the system will scrunch the data and email it to you. I ran a couple more. Here's just one that's a trending or a comparison report, I should say. So you pick 2 periods. So I picked all of 2022 and all of 2023 and said, I just care about my customers. So this is kind of the guts of the report right here. The rest is just extra if you care, but it's a list of customers, what they bought in, it looks like I'm looking at volume again, how many gallons they bought in 2023 versus 2022 versus the variance, and then what's the variance percent. So which customers are going up, which customers are going down. So, and again, there's lots of reports. I think I'll just pull over one more. If you want just a high-level summary report, you can pick the way you want the data to be grouped. And this particular one, I said, look, I want to analyze all of 2023 and show me it by owner, which is salesperson, and then department, and then product category. So if I jump down to me, here's what here's what I contributed in 2023, broken down by department. So maybe, what did I do for lubricants? And then maybe what did I do for lubricants, for our private label, let's say. So you get all the numbers broken down pretty much any way you want. And that's all from using this dashboard. And just to kind of show you, when I went in to run that summary report, I get these group by options. Okay, I think that is enough for me, Sarah. We have 1 minute. Can I turn it back to you?
Absolutely. That was fantastic. Wow, you covered a lot of great information. So we did launch that poll of, if you would like to connect with us. So again, while we're wrapping up here, please send in any extra questions you may have. There is also a survey link within On24, so feel free to drop any comments or feedback in there. And please draw attention to the related content. So one, you can download this presentation. And also we have some links to some really helpful articles, including one about Copilot. And there's so much exciting stuff coming out of Microsoft with that technology. So again, thank you, Steve. Thank you to our audience, and have a great afternoon.
Thank you, Sarah.